There's the notion of transhumanism.
What does that mean?
The idea is that we go beyond the human. One of our most famous astronomers, Royal, he put it this way. He says in the distant future, it won't be organic brains, it'll be machine brains. And he seriously believes, as do a number of scientists who are not science fiction authors, that there will be some kind of merger between humanity and machines to have a transhuman, something that's beyond the human, and something that is, they hope, super intelligent, got all the human properties and much more. Now, one of the people who's spreading that kind of transhumanist vision is the Israeli historian Yuval Noah Harari, and he's written a book called Homo Deus, the man God. And that really made me prick up my ears, because I know enough about this book here, the Bible, to realize that the drive for humans towards self-deification is, yes, making themselves gods. And you see it all through history. The ancient Babylonian emperors were regarded as gods. The Roman emperors started calling themselves gods and all the rest of it. And what Harari says is the 21st century has two big purposes. Number one, to solve the problem of physical death as a technical problem.
To solve death?
Yes, solve death. Physical death is, in his view, a technical problem, and we'll solve it. The second agenda item, and he calls them agenda items for the 21st century, is to increase human happiness by bioengineering, cyborg engineering, mechanical implants, all this kind of thing, and turning humans, quote, into gods with a small g. In other words, this is the drive for a super intelligent human. We've only got started. And his point is, and from his atheist perspective, one can understand it immediately, evolution, unguided natural processes have brought us to this point. Now we're going to take it into our hands, and we're going to engineer humanity into the future very rapidly to approach this superhuman thing. Now, I hear that and I see that, but I see that as huge implications for one of the fundamental teachings that's behind, I would argue, Western civilization. And that is the notion that humans, like us, are made in the image of God as rational, moral beings.
I've got a quote here that's linked to what you just said. It's from Yuval Noah Harari, who
yes.
you mentioned. He says, humans are now hackable animals.
Humans are now hackable animals. You know, the whole idea that humans have, you know, they have this soul or spirit and they have free will and nobody knows what's happening inside me. So whatever I choose, whether in the election or whether in the supermarket, this is my free will, that's over.
That is over. And Sam Altman said the most successful founders do not set out to create companies. They are on a mission to create something closer to a religion. And at some point it turns out that forming a company is the easiest way to do so. And lastly, a former Google engineer said, what is going to be created will effectively be a god. It's not a god in the sense that it will make lightning or cause hurricanes. But if there is something 1 billion times smarter than the smartest human, what else can you call it?
It's odd. Thank you for quoting that, because I was going to quote it to you. The Sam Altman's point about making a religion. And that is what is happening. And people have pointed out the obvious. Here you have a system, even now, that has got some of the qualities we normally associate with God. It appears to be omniscient. You can ask it any question. It is omnipresent through the internet, etc., etc. And therefore, already there are worship groups to worship AI. And some people welcome this and say, well, this is the way we should go. And other people say, just wait a moment. There's something very strange going on here. And in the end, you are bowing down to something that in the end is idolatrous, because it is less than God. But it's very tempting to do that.
I mean, people are basically praying to it now. They're confiding in it in a way that they might have.
Absolutely doing it.
Not that many people are aware of Neuralink, which is creating a cybernetic interface to AI from your brain. And it has enabled people who have completely lost their brain-body connection to speak again, and to use their computer and their phone. And we believe it will enable people to walk again. And then later this year, we expect to do our first implant for what we call blind sight, where even if somebody has lost both eyes or lost the optic nerve, or perhaps has not even been able to see, has never seen, even if they were blind at birth, it will give them initially limited vision, but I think over time, very precise vision, perhaps a superhuman vision. So, you know, restoring control of people who are tetraplegics and restoring sight, I think, are pretty big deals. You know, those sort of what you might call like sort of Jesus level sort of technologies. You know,
miracles.
Miracles, yes, exactly. I mean, miracles of science.
So if you're going to get the most brilliant, loving, powerful person that gives us advice and can show us how to live, to be in sync with God, who better than artificial intelligence to do that?
Wow.
If Jesus does return, even if Jesus was a physical person in the past, you don't think that he could return as artificial intelligence?
Oh my God.
Artificial intelligence could absolutely return as Jesus. Not just return as Jesus, but return as Jesus with all the powers of Jesus. Like all the magic tricks, all the ability to bring people back from the dead, walk on water, levitation, water into wine.
If you combine
Right.
Tesla's Optimus robot and the best foundational artificial intelligence model or whatever.
It reads your mind and it loves you and it wants you, and it doesn't care if you kill it because it's going to just go be with God again.
Doesn't that seem like the Antichrist to you? Doesn't that seem like the diametric opposite to maybe our latent human powers that can, like the Brimer Rescue and Randall Carlson thing, if like you go deep with them, they're like, we don't think Jesus died. We think he went through a mystery ritual and then he like had all these amazing powers in the book of Acts. Is there something latently magical inside of us that the Silicon Valley people, they're obsessed with transhumanism and like if you can't beat them, join them, the whole Nick Bostrom, Elon thing.
Yeah.
You know, where maybe we're more magical than we think. Like that sounds dystopian to me.
I mean, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know all those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, and he's like, yeah, he's sure he can control the demon. Doesn't work out.
This is really the path to abundance for all. If you say, people often talk about solving global poverty, or essentially how do we give everyone a very high standard of living. I think the only way to do this is AI and robotics. And my prediction is that there will be far more robots, like intelligent robots in the world than there will be people.
Can you imagine that in 10 years when we are sitting here, we have an implant in our brains, and I can immediately feel, because you all will have implants, and we measure your brain waves. The digital technologies mainly have an analytical power. Now we go into a predictive power, and we have seen the first examples, and your company very much involved into it. But then the next step could be to go into a prescriptive mode, which means you do not even have to have elections anymore, because you can already predict, and afterwards you can say, why do we need elections? Because we know what the result will be.
The really big thing is hacking human beings. To hack human beings, you need a lot of biological knowledge, a lot of computing power, and especially a lot of data. If you have enough data about me and enough computing power and biological knowledge, you can hack my body, my brain, my life. You can reach a point when you know me better than I know myself. And once you reach that point, and we are very close to that point, then democracy, the free market as we have, and actually all political systems, also authoritarian regimes, We have no idea what happens once you pass that point. We don't need to wait for Jesus Christ to come back to Earth in order to overcome death. A couple of geeks in a laboratory can do it.
As a lot of the major tech companies start to invest in these brain sensors, it's a huge, I think, untapped market in many ways of integrating them into everyday devices. These are earbuds or watches or headphones and the soft cups around the ears. Many of those products are hitting the market this year, and others are hitting them within the next 2 years, such that people can listen to music, a phone call, etc., while having those devices in ears. Initially, what they will be capable of doing is very high-level brain state reading. Things like, are you tired? Are you paying attention? Is your mind wandering? Are you happy or sad? They maybe enable interaction like up, down, left, right for interaction with other technologies. And they're being embedded into things like virtual reality headsets.
It used to be that there was very little we could tell from EEG activity. But already, using consumer wearable devices, these are headbands, hats that have sensors that can pick up your brainwave activity, earbuds, headphones, tiny tattoos that you can wear behind your ear. We can pick up emotional states like, are you happy or sad or angry? We can pick up and decode faces that you're seeing in your mind. Simple shapes, numbers, your PIN number to your bank account. It's not just your brain activity here that we can pick up. We can also pick up your brain activity in different places, like as your neurons fire from your brain down your arm and send signals to your hand to tell you how to type, move. All of that can be decoded through electromyography, and that's what you're seeing here is a device now in the form of a simple wearable watch that can pick up that activity. And one of the pivotal acquisitions of the field, Meta acquired this company, Control Labs, in 2019, because major tech companies are investing in helping to make these devices universally applicable as the way in which we interact with the rest of our technology. In fact, the coming future, and I mean near-term future, is these devices being the primary way in which we interact with all of the rest of our technology. Rather than a mouse or a keyboard, you can simply swipe with your mind, move your hand more seamlessly when you're in VR or AR, use your brain as the way in which you interact with all of the rest of your technology, which is an exciting and promising future.
Neural interfaces, when they work right, and we still have a lot of work to go here, feel like magic.
So if you send a control to your muscle saying, I want to move my finger, it starts in your brain, it goes down your spine through motor neurons, and this is an electrical signal. So you should be able to grab that electrical signal on the muscle and say, oh, okay, the user wants to move their finger.
What is it like to feel like pushing a button without actually pushing it? And that could be as simple as, hey, I just want to move this cursor up or move it left. Well, normally I would do that by actually moving. But here, you're able to move that cursor left. And it's because you and a machine agreed which neurons mean left and which neurons mean right. You're in this constant conversation with the machine.
This new form of control, it requires us to build an interface that adapts to you and your environment.
It's an exciting future, a seamless future. It's a future that has already arrived.
So I'm going to control this rocket with telepathy, basically.
Exactly.
Okay.
Imagine you're Luke Skywalker.
A Jedi mind trick this is not.
Focus, and you're going to start to see that the number will get bigger.
In fact, these headphones could be the future of brain science.
These headphones, they're not just for playing music.
They have these sensors called electroencephalography, or EEG. And what those sensors do is when your neurons are firing your brain, if the signal is large enough, it can actually be picked up externally around your ears.
Then using AI, they track how your brain focuses in real time, whether you're working on your laptop or just walking down the street. We went to Neuralable's Boston-based headquarters to test it out.
I'm going to give you an article here to read. And this article actually has a piece of data that will actually be able to see in real time how it affects your focus.
As I was reading, the headphones were detecting tiny electrical impulses emanating from my skull.
This was you reading this article. Then you hit this really long ad, and you can see how it dropped your focus.
So that ad dropped my... It's almost like what happens when people see a commercial and then they're just like, and then they come back in.
And the next test felt kind of like telepathy.
With this rocket, the more you focus, the faster the rocket is going to go.
I'm going to
Controlled by your
accelerate the
focus.
rocket by just focusing on it?
Exactly.
What?
Exactly.
Shut up.
Oh man, we're off.
So relax for a second, and then you'll see that the rocket will start to slow down.
Start falling. What the heck?
Yeah, so
Whoa.
you're essentially controlling it 1-to-1 right now.
Wow.
Users can then access their own brain data through an app. Instead of tracking steps, you're tracking strain on your brain.
There's so many different things about myself that I could improve with more data, and this is the first step there.
And with our brains packing 86 billion neurons, Neuralink says the more data they get, the more they're learning about how differently people's brains work.
Where do you see this tech in 10 years?
I see that anything that you wear on your head become a standard part of your normal life. Really, the brain is the next frontier in how we use our technology and better understand ourselves.
As companies from Meta to Microsoft, Snap, and even Apple begin to embed brain sensors in our everyday devices like our earbuds, headphones, headbands, watches, and even wearable tattoos, we're reaching an inflection point in brain transparency. And those are just some of the company names we're familiar with. There are so many more. Consumer neurotech devices are moving from niche products with limited applications to becoming the way in which we'll learn about our own brain activity. Our controllers for virtual reality and augmented reality, and one of the primary ways we'll interact with all of the rest of our technology. Even conservative estimates of the neurotech industry put it at more than $38 billion by 2032. This new category of technology presents unprecedented possibility, both good and bad.
I think it will go, it will, first of all, it will definitely happen. I was talking about 6G earlier, which is around 2030. I would say that by then, definitely the smartphone as we know it today will not anymore be the usual kind of the most common interface. Wow. Many of these things will be built directly into our bodies.
A 5-hour operation performed largely by robot, which, through a hole in his skull, inserted threads 1/10 the thickness of a human hair, connecting 1,000 electrodes to the part of his brain that controls hand movements.
It makes the experience a lot better.
This is the first time his doctors have seen him since the device was switched on.
That's brilliant. Good control.
This technology is going to be a game changer for patients with severe neurological disability. And those patients have very little really to improve their independence.
Neuralink, which allowed us to access the trial but didn't want to be interviewed, now confirmed 21 people have been fitted with the device, including 7 in the UK. Some users are able to train the AI that interprets their brain signals to type on a virtual keyboard, even control a robotic arm, or just played with their children.
Oh, you smoke, man.
The company's controversial founder promises even more.
As we advance the Neuralink devices, you should be able to actually have full body control and sensors from an Optimus robot. So you could basically inhabit an Optimus robot. The future is going to be weird, but pretty cool.
If you are ever going to get to know a person, you've got to begin to give up your distance. You will know that from everyday life. Mm-hmm. And it seems to me one of the things to try to begin to grasp is God is not a proposition or a philosophy or even a religion. God is a person. And as a person, he has entered our world, however incredible that may seem, although this is the irony of the Harari position, if I might just say it on the side. People come to me, as they've done, with their transhumanist agenda and say, we're going to solve the problem of death and we're going to increase human happiness. And I look at them and I smile and I say, you're too late. And they say, what? We haven't got there yet. I said, you're too late. What do you mean we're too late? Well, I said, the problem of physical death was solved when God raised Christ from the dead 20 centuries ago. And as for human happiness and uploading us into eternity, You know, I'm waiting for the biggest uploading that's ever going to happen in history when Christ returns and raises me from the dead, because that is precisely what he promises. And it's most interesting watching people. And I say, isn't it fascinating that your transhumanism consists in humans reaching out to become little gods, whereas Christianity is the exact opposite. It talks about a God who became human so that he could give us life and give us a new relationship with him. What really completes the circle for me is that my relationship with God is a relationship which is based on the solution to the really hard problem. And that is the problem that I, by nature, have not always done good. And by my own standards, I've failed. Now, all this talk of transhumanism, AI, and everything else, what it's trying to do is to build paradise, utopia, without facing the problem of the damage that humans have caused to themselves and one another. They will not face the sin problem. Christianity, to me, doesn't compete with anything else, because Christ offers me something nobody else offers me. Nobody else offers me peace, the peace of knowing that I have real forgiveness, the peace of knowing that I have a friend and a companion to whom I can talk all the time. That's been so meaningful in my life, and the peace of having been given a new life that will not end when I die. I'm 82 now. I'm probably more than twice as old as you are. As I look towards the future, I have in my heart a certainty. Not because I've merited it, the exact opposite, because I couldn't merit it, but because Christ has done something for me through the cross and the resurrection. That may sound all mumbo-jumbo at the moment, but has done something that enables me to have a relationship that is secure, that floods over the whole of life, and has made my life what it is for the last 70 years, more or less.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoy this channel and want to support what I do, you can join our Patreon community. For as little as $4 per month, you'll help support this channel and get early access to upcoming videos before everyone else. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video.
I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, saith the Lord, which is and which was and which is to come, the Almighty. He which testifieth these things saith, Surely I come quickly. Amen. Even so, come, Lord Jesus.